Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Caper Cody, and we're keeping it geekly with our returning guest, Nandor Shaffer. We're here to break down the Fabled offering issue 1 and everything in between. Last time we had you on was for Manchild. I mean, it feels like literally about a year ago since you've last been on the show.
Yeah, I think it's been a year or year and a half, maybe even longer. Yeah, it's been a while because I think I was promoting Manchild issue 1, and then I came out with issue 2, and now we're here with Fabled offering number 1. So,
and I've grown a beard since then. Like everything's changed. We're weathered.
I just shaved like just the other day, and it's been still to this day. It takes way too long for me to grow a beard that it becomes it gets to a point where I'm like, this isn't gonna work. Like, I need to shave it because it just looks,
it gets itchy
bad.
Once you hit that itchy stage, it's like miserable. You got to bear through it,
right? It's just not fun. And so at least I still have my youth about me, where people are like, I mean, there's been so many people that are like, are you like 17 or whatever, and I'm like nah, but I appreciate it, and we'll see. I just it's like all my friends in my age group, it's like, they all have the capability of facial hair, and I'm kind of behind right now, but.
And it's a blessing. People often think I'm like 24, like 24 to the 30 age group. I'm 34, and it's like, all right, thank you. But
yeah,
we can only ride that roller coaster for so long. Eventually, age does catch up to you. Speaking of that age, Manchild, an interesting title. I remember our last chat about it. For anyone tuning in, kind of let's go ahead and talk about some of your past titles leading up to what we're here to talk about today.
Of course, yeah. So Manchild, like I said, I have issues 1 and 2 out right now, and that is a kind of a nostalgia trip back to the 60s era of comics, the Marvel Age of Comics, the Lee Ditko Kirby era, where we are kind of diving deep into Silver Age comics and Silver Age superheroes and that kind of world. But there's a modern day twist to it, where we also are following this comic book fan named Rufus, and you're reading about the superhero character named the Monarch Crier, and also Rufus in the real world. And so you're reading these two stories at the same time, and they have this interconnectivity to it. That's kind of the mystery surrounding the series, is how do these two stories relate, and what is their function together, and what's the correlation there. And so it's a really great book. I mean, the response has been awesome, and I've really enjoyed putting it out there and seeing how people have reacted to it, because a lot of people have been surprised. A lot of people, I've gotten feedback on, a lot of people love the superhero stuff, but they're not as crazy about the slice of life stuff. But then I get the other people they love the slice of life stuff, and they're not as crazy about the superhero stuff. So it's been really interesting to kind of see what resonates with readers and what they've enjoyed about it. But it's been great, and I've been really pushing that, and we're going to be launching the Kickstarter campaign for issue 3 next year at some point. So I'm excited to bring that to people.
So was it hard to balance like the two different, the slice of life with the superhero aspect? Like, was that a challenge for you, or did you find it kind of easy?
It was definitely a challenge, because you only have so much real estate in a comic book, and how much space and time that you have to try to flesh out as many characters as you can. I mean, it's hard enough to do that just with one story, but trying to juggle that between two. And I always, when I would approach an issue, I would know what the focus of that issue in particular would be, and I kind of have to look at it from a top-down perspective of like the entire story and the entire arc that these characters are going through. And so, while in some specific issues it might feel like one is imbalanced, when you look at the entire whole, you'll be like, oh, well, that makes sense, because we needed this to start developing here so that we could capitalize on it later, or we needed to wait to push this until later. And so every time I would approach an issue, I'd have to think like, how many pages, how many scenes are we devoting to this particular storyline, and what we need to leave. And what was one of the most challenging aspects of it is trying to uh, not confuse the reader on which world we're in, and trying
Hmm.
to visually and kind of hold the reader's hand enough, not too much, but enough that they're not lost and they're not like trying to figure out, okay, where am I? And I mean, the key to that is just visual cues, and also leading to kind of cliffhangers with each particular scene when we would alternate between the stories. So that would uh, be kind of fun little like tricks that I learned as I was writing it, and as I was creating it. I was like, how can I make this as simple as possible, but still, have that flavor of complexity.
And I mean, that's not your only title that you have out to date. You're kind of prolific for your age, if I'm not mistaken. You have a couple titles under your belt.
I do. I have Manchild, issues 1 and 2 are out, and then I have Seasons volumes 1 and 2, which is my supernatural graphic novel series that follows this guy named Fletcher through 1 year of his life, and with each passing season, his abilities change, and it's this kind of supernatural, grounded, I would say, like superhero story. Like it has elements of like superhero stories, but it's more so um, a genre mashup of like slice of life superhero and supernatural kind of all combined. And that, like I said, we have volumes 1 and 2. Spring and summer are out right now, and those are both hardcover graphic novels that are over 100 pages each. It was my first book that I ever put out was volume 1 in 2018, and yeah, since then I've done those two, and then I also did Lifeline, which was an original graphic novel that I worked with 7 different artists from all around the world, and they each contributed a different chapter to the book, and it tells this life story of this just regular guy who lives in U.S. in the Midwest, and you see his life from a small boy to an elderly man, but you see his
Hmm.
life through the eyes of different people. So
That's
his story
cool.
is, yeah, his story is told from the perspective of different people in his life. Like chapter 1 is like from the point of view of his dad. Chapter 4 is from the point of view of his daughter, and all the art styles change depending upon kind of where we are. And so that was a really experimental book, but it paid off. It actually it won me the 2021 Indie Vote Award for Best Writer and Best Comic of that year. So I was really
Congratulations.
proud of that. Yeah, thank you.
That's
And
awesome.
so yeah, we got those books. So I have 5 books out right now, and then the Fabled offering is next up.
And that's what we're here to talk about. We actually have our good friend Michael Katz. Welcome to the stream. Hope everything's been good for you. Digging the artwork, kind of a Frank Thorne, Tony Dizanugi. I misbutchered that last name. I'm so sorry about that. Vibe on the interiors,
Yeah.
a 70s adult comics feel. Yeah, from the Kickstarter, we grabbed several of the variant covers and just a few of the interiors. We're gonna take a deeper look at those when we pull up the campaign. But it feels definitely like a more mature approach to perhaps your writing and overall tone of comics.
It is. It's such a departure. Like I'd say in the sense of it, like not only the genres that I'm writing, but also the I don't know how dark we get, or like tonally, there's more of a underlying darkness to it that and kind of and with the character, with Grand Princess Aurelia, with her own story and kind of what she's been through. It we're approaching it, at least I'm approaching it from a really relatable and kind of grounded vision of someone who has gone through something really, really terrible in her life, and trying to pick up the pieces and trying to um, understand how to function after such like a traumatic event. And so um, doing that was quite the undertaking. And just from the art style and working with Marco Roblin on this book and trying to make it into something that felt heavy and like where you need to take time with it. I really want people to take time with it, and not speed through it right when they get it, and really investigate it, investigate the art. And that's something that I really love about Marco's work, is that when you look at it, especially the colors that he uses, because he does it all. He does the inks and the colors. He really you really get this sense of timelessness to it, because it looks like a 70s comic, or a comic
Mhm.
that came out in a period of where, like, Heavy Metal magazine and like these more adult kind of mature comics, and European taste to it as well. Something that you wouldn't normally see in the Western comic scene. And but it's coming out in 2023, and so it just kind of has this really neat effect to it, where I want people to feel like they're kind of being taken back in time a little bit, but also
Mhm.
which I kind of got from Manchild in a way, but at the same time it's still a very modern way of telling a story like this. So I think people will really find a lot to uh, anchor to, and grab onto with it.
Absolutely. We have our good friend BMD Nerd. The art reminds me of comics I would have tried to read when I was younger, but I would not have understood them. Absolutely, I remember those. And I like how light and airy things look with those uncommon colors. Yes, I mean, the interiors are just absolutely striking. Before we dive too deep into a little bit of the comic, let's talk about the protagonist. I mean, the protagonist has a really striking appearance. Maybe let's talk about some of the influences and who this character is within this comic.
Yeah, so our main character that we follow in the Fabled offering is Grand Princess Aurelia, and she's a warrior princess. She has just gotten done winning this uh, long, jaded war that her kingdom had been in battle in for a very long time, and she emerges victorious, and she becomes the pride of her kingdom, which is called Telindius. And her her motives, and what she's where we find her in this book is in a place where she like fears the quiet. She fears
Hmm.
not having to be in battle and in war, and kind of in that scenario. It's like after you've kind of fulfilled your mission, it's like, who are you, like, what do you do when that mission has been fulfilled? And she has that moment, and that realization. And there's a page on the Kickstarter where she's praying to their god, and she's asking, what is my next step? What am I supposed to be doing with this, being afraid of the quiet? What is
Hmm.
that like for me? And so I thought it would be really interesting for a character to who is a very strong female, or character that is coming from a place of strength and beauty and power and all of that. But like, what would what would you become after you've fulfilled that, and you've done your job? And I thought that was a really interesting place for a character to be in. And in terms of her looks, I really wanted to try to create a striking character, and someone that you would see and that you would think, what are these features that would be striking? So like the white hair and the
Hmm.
dark skin tone, and kind of that contrast. And then also, the biggest characteristic that people will see is that she's pregnant in this book, and that she has a baby that she is carrying through this story. And that's also another layer to kind of the stakes that this story involves, and why she's going on this quest alone. And but at the same time, she's having to protect herself, but she's also having to protect, you know, the life of her unborn child. And it's like, what is happening? Why isn't your
Hmm.
kingdom helping you? Why are you alone in this? And why are you going into enemy territory to have this interaction with this ancient deity on their side? So yeah, I kind of wanted to take a character, because I'd never written a female character before as a protagonist of any of my stories. They've all been male characters, and so um, that was very interesting, because it approaching it was just a lot different than
Hmm.
I had to before, because I was so familiar with like Rufus being a comic book fan, or Fletcher and Seasons kind of being this young person struggling to find themselves, and then in Lifeline just kind of getting in the heads of different people. But like with Grand Princess Aurelia, like, I've never been in a war. I've
Never been
never,
pregnant.
yeah, I've never been pregnant. I've never, been in a place where I have felt like ostracized to the point of being, utterly alone, where I'm just on my own out in the world without anyone else to help me. And so, getting into that mindset and trying to understand how a mother would react, or how someone who is carrying a baby would react, and but I had to kind of strip all of that and just get back to, while acknowledging those things, get back to what is relatable, what would resonate with a reader. Because we're, at the end of the day, even though she's not human per se, we're all human, and we all have desires and passions and fears and anxieties and all of those kinds of things. And so trying to inject that into a character while not making it feel generic was really cool. Like, I mean, she's one of the most interesting characters that I think I've ever written, and she just has a lot on her plate, a lot on her shoulders, and you can really feel the weight of her decisions in this book.
We have a BMD nerd. This might be the second comic I've seen starring a pregnant woman. Now that you mention it, I can only think of one comic that comes to mind that has a pregnant person as the protagonist. Michael Katz just backed it. Thank you for backing. For everyone that is watching, here is a link to the campaign. We're going to be pulling it up here in just a few. Before we do that, I do want to talk about the other baddie in there. It's such an interesting character design for him as well. That's the antagonist, I'm assuming.
You're correct. So that is the Ancient Sizen, and the Ancient Sizen is this this otherworldly deity being that his role in the story is at a certain time there is this moment in time where the inhabitants of this world, from the past, the present, and the future, will congregate to this mountain called the Mount Gifira. And he descends down from the heavens, basically, and he chooses someone to present an offering so that he can make a transactional agreement with this person. And you're not necessarily guaranteed to be chosen. So many people from all over the world, come to this place to, looking for mercy, looking for, power, looking for all these different motivations that you would come to try to get your wish fulfilled, basically. And he's kind of the, the genie that you would want to meet. But there's also a cost to it. And that's why you have to present your own offering. And so, Aurelia is on this quest to meet Sizen. And if you notice on one of the pages in the book that we show on the preview for the Kickstarter campaign, you see these 3 different faces of his. And those represent the past, present, and future, because he is a being that isn't bound by time and isn't really necessarily bound by, the confines of this physical world. And so in the story, when he is speaking, when we get to this interaction with him, you'll see his face change, and that depends on where he's coming from, like at how he's reacting to this scenario at what point in time. Yeah, so that was also, such an exciting idea, but also a huge pain to try to figure out how to write that, because you have to, again, make it make sense for the reader, but not try to over explain it to where you're beating them over the head and being like, okay, so now he's coming from this perspective, or now he's he's speaking this from the future. And so I tried to write each line of his dialogue to be like in a past, present, or future tense, and in that way, so that the reader could kind of understand like you know, and he'll answer his own questions, because he's coming from these different, timelines
And
basically. And so
you're doing that in what, 40 pages?
yeah, so it's going to be 40 pages, and we're already, Marco and I are already, we're nearly done with the art for the book, but we're already thinking about adding a few more pages just for fun, just because we're having so much fun with it, and we really like it, and we don't want to leave the world. But because it's a one shot, it's a story that has a beginning, middle, and end, and tells this arc for Aurelia, but um there's so much more I would love to explore. There's so much more to this world that I would love to dive into, but I didn't want to, with having seasons on my plate and Manchild on my plate, I didn't want to promise readers more than I could give, and
Hmm.
like in a amount of time that would be preferable, and so that they, wouldn't forget about, and wouldn't feel like obligated to like follow this series, and this series. And so, if people really love it, and the response so far has been great, but if people, when they read it and they really love it, I would love to do more and continue it.
We have a BMD nerd. I'll never complain about extra pages. Me either. I think, as long as it serves the story justice and it's not just like thrown in, like that's
Yeah,
always,
right.
the perfect recipe. Let's go ahead and take this moment though. Let's hop over to the Kickstarter and check out these interiors, large and in charge. Get this added to the screen right quick and then get this party started. Congratulations though. It looks like your campaign is off to a killer start, man.
Thank you. Yeah, we're doing really well. We're nearly to 3,500, and that way we'll only have 1 grand left to go. We'll have 11 days to get it.
Mhm.
So it's been definitely my most, I think, like successful launch in terms of uh, backer count and the amount of money we've raised in this amount of time. But it's been quite the ride. Like we're kind of in that middle period where things are slow right now, but
Mhm.
since we're getting so close to the goal and we still have 10 days left, I'm pretty optimistic, and I'm really excited about it.
These covers, they remind me like Magic the Gathering cards almost, like with how just like insane
Yes,
the art is.
thank you, thank you. Yes, that's what I was going for. With it, it's so kind of difficult with like the way Kickstarter is right now. I mean, like a lot of people enjoy the collectability of variant covers, and so you're trying to give readers something unique and enough variety to choose from, and try to get something that is in their of their liking, and what they enjoy. And so but it's also kind of difficult because you're trying to not I'm always trying not to stray too far from what the book actually is on the inside. I don't want to
Mhm.
do a cover that is just like a completely different art style, or something that's tonally just way off from what you're actually reading about, what the comic is. And so yeah, having all of these artists be a part of this campaign and these variant covers was like such a pleasure. Like I love them all. It's so hard for me to like pick which one, and which one's my favorite, or if I was a reader and having to pick one, I'd be like, damn it. This is kind of difficult.
Then we have a look at the previews too, and these interiors are gorgeous. So once again, who's the artist involved?
So the artist for this book is Marco Roblin, and he is a Chilean artist, and he's only done like maybe one or two other books that I know of, and he's very underground, very indie, and I actually noticed him because of a book that I had backed on Kickstarter last year,
That's
and I
crazy.
wrote I wrote his name down, and I was like, if I ever have a project, or like if I need someone in my back pocket, I kind of have a list of artists, of people I'd love to work with just on future projects or whatever. And um I was like, I wonder if he'd be down for this. I wonder if this would be something he'd be excited to do. And let me tell you, I've never worked with an artist who is this enthusiastic about the book that he's working on. I mean, like he texts me every day. He sends me updates every day. We're always talking. He's always talking to me about the story and like ideas he has. And, he's really become a huge part of the creative process. And I love that because he's not just taking my script and copying and pasting it. He's like challenging it and trying to find ways to make it better. And that's so important when you're working with an artist, because it shows me as not only the writer, but someone who's hiring this artist, it shows me that they care, that they actually care about the book, and they're not just like forcing everything to fit because they just like want to get a paycheck, or they want to get it done, or they're trying to hit a deadline or whatever. It's like he's really so communicative, and he's such a great collaborator, and he's always like involved with it, and he's asking me questions, and we're trying to make it so epic and feel so like organic and enjoyable and entertaining.
Yeah, the detail is just phenomenal. You could definitely tell he has a lot of passion. Just like the splash page, and then we have the panel layout right here, and then this panel layout, just the comparison, the color palettes, like everything about this is just so mind melting. I mean, what's that collaborative process look like between you two? Do you have, your script and then ideas of what you want, and you let him kind of take the wheel, or do you, kind of let him do his thing when, he's, creating the page? Like, how does that look?
Yeah. So yeah, he takes, I always write in full script. So I have all the panels laid out and all the descriptions and everything. And then he'll take that and he'll send me a layout of what he has and what he's thinking about. And like I said, sometimes he'll be like, I think we should add this panel here, or we should add a few more scenes, or we should add an entire page and really focus on this scene. And so there's been some things that have moved around, but it's only added to like the perfecting the pacing of it in a way visually that for me, I'm not able to tell, because I'm not an artist, and so it's hard for me to always kind of like do the guesswork on like how much can fit on a page, or how much that we want to display on the page, and how much time we're giving a specific scene. So we'll have after the layouts, we'll have a back and forth a few times about how everything is laid out, and how everything, which angles, he's choosing to focus on. And we'll do that for a few rounds, and then he'll go to inks, and then I kind of let him do his thing in terms of the colors, because he's lining it up for himself in terms of the mood for each scene, and how things are flowing. And while I have good color sense, like it's so different when you're the one who is spending the hours on the page working to make it look the way that you envision it. And so I kind of let him run with it, and then when he sends me the colors for it, we'll go back and forth on if there's anything that's if a mood for a specific panel or a specific page should be changed. But most of the time it's pretty seamless, and it's kind of awesome how well and kind of easy it's worked, because he what I love about our partnership on this book is that we really have the same visual sense in a lot of ways, and like creative sense in the kind of things we want to accent for a page and for the reader. And so like a page like this with Aurelia's face, like that was something that I initially had as not a full page splash. And Marco was like, now wait a second, because of what happens in this particular scene in the story, he he was like, what if we made her reaction in this, or this scene, like we have the comic stop for a second. It's like we take a pause here, and we have her just in her glory, like there, like looking at us and like reacting to what's happening. And it's a beautiful profile shot of her. I mean, I love it, and it's one of my favorite pages of the book.
So are the colors going to be kind of indicators of the mood of the page, or is that just for certain pages?
It's going to be, yeah, no, for every page, it kind of, attaches itself to the mood and kind of the the emotion that we're trying to bring out, and how we want the reader to feel, and what they're supposed to be feeling in that moment, but also not being so drastic that you feel like you're in another place completely.
We have a BMD nerd. I know what else this reminds me of. OG Final Fantasy character art. I think I could definitely see that. The Final Fantasy character art is like some of my favorite.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Gorgeous. Let's go ahead and check out some of these rewards. If you guys are watching, right here is a link to check this out with us. If you're unable to back it, simply putting it on Facebook or Twitter, word of mouth is 100% free, and you have nothing to lose just by simply sharing. So you can get a PDF of this for $6. Cover A at 14, cover B at 20, and you're also getting the PDFs with those two.
That's right. And cover A, just so people know, cover A is a wraparound cover. So that's like going to be the front and back cover of the book. So it's just a nice little, it's just a nice little touch. It's like, that's going to be, the full image. You won't have any like ads or whatever, like on the back of the comic.
And then we have cover B, C, D, and then the collector's edition all at 20. That collector's edition is also going to net you a signed cover A and art print as well. Cover E at 25, cover F at 25, and then this collector's edition variant of your choice with PDF and art print at 30, and then the retail bundle at 40. Get your name in the credits at 50, and then this awesome original sketch at 80. Is this going to be like a page from the comic, or just whatever Marco wants to sketch for the backer?
Yeah, so the backer is going to have their choice of what character from the Fabled offering that they would like Marco to sketch, and it'll be we're going to have it be probably at least the size of a comic backing board, just so that we can fit it in a Gemini mailer. But you're going to get just an original sketch that of any character that you want from the Fabled offering, and Marco will do that for you.
That's awesome. You can get all covers with the PDF at 115, the Foxhole Comics bundle at 125 with PDF. Get drawn into the story for 150. That's a pretty good price too. So is the backer going to have like some sort of like, speaking role or a background character? Like what's that going to look like?
Yeah, we're mostly thinking of like more so of a cameo appearance. That they definitely might have a line or two of dialogue, but it won't be anything that's like game changing to the story. But what's so cool about this reward in particular is if you want to be like, an alien, or like you want an extra eye or an arm or leg or whatever, like if you want to be in Jedi robes, like there's so many cool like creative things that we could do with you and with your character, that we can put you in this world and drop you into it, like you're like maybe your D&D character that you've created or whatever. Like you could just throw yourself in there and be a part of it. And with all of these rewards, nearly all of them stack on top of one another. So like if you get the drawn to the story, you're also getting your name in the book, you're also getting the original sketch, you're also getting the signed cover and the art print and all that stuff.
That's awesome. And then we have some add-ons as well, some prints. This art's gorgeous too.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit about the sword?
Sure. So Aurelia's sword is the Sword of Chell, and so that is her household name. Her house name is Chell, and it can only be passed on from the owner to the receiver, or else there's consequences. Like you can't just pick up this blade if you're a random person, or if your opponent picked up your sword, like they wouldn't be able to. There's consequences, and we'll see that in the story of what those consequences are. But so at the end of this war that her kingdom has been waging between this other race called the Makmal, she is gifted the sword from her father, the king of Telendius, to her, and she's become getting this blade is such a high honor that she's become the pride of her kingdom, the pride of Telendius.
Oh, that's cool.
So So we see the passing of the blade from the father to the daughter, and it's her reward, her gift for saving her kingdom.
And we have some stretch goals as well at 5,000. A chibi sticker. You get a Grand Princess Aurelia trading card. And like I said, this feels very, very much like Magic the Gathering kind of influenced. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then another cool thing too is once they hit 150 backers, all backers will receive this Indie Comics PDF bundle featuring these 5 sci-fi and fantasy titles. Then every 25, you unlock another one. An awesome thing for all the backers out there to kind of get a little something, a little bit larger bang for their buck. So right there is the Kickstarter in its entirety. After going through that, what would you like to say to anyone who might be on the fence about backing? If you just had a few moments to kind of, address that.
Yeah, this story is a complete story. And if you've never read my work before, or you've always been interested and you've never, picked up one of my books in the past, I would say if there was a book that was ever going to convince you to keep reading me, or keep enjoying my work and what work that I have in my back catalog, it would be this book. This is a story that has everything that I love about character-driven narratives, and also a story that has high stakes. I mean, the stakes have never been higher, because not only is her life on the line, but also the life of her unborn child, and also the fate of her kingdom, and like what her choices is going to affect not only her but everyone around her. And if you're a fan of those those properties that transcend genres like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, or playing Magic the Gathering or D&D or whatever, like all of that has built a community of people that really transcends tastes and your proclivities for certain storytelling tropes or whatever. And this is a book that I hope will do that. But so if you're not just a fan of science fiction or fantasy or whatever, if you just want a character driven story that is dark, that um is written to like heighten your intellect, not written down to you, it's not like trying to force feed you anything that it's just kind of fodder entertainment, popcorn entertainment. Like I I approach all of my stories wanting to inspire people and wanting to change their lives and wanting them to think about themselves and the world around them, and scenarios in which they would find themselves of impossible choices, and sometimes we find ourselves in those. And so this is a story for that and for those people. And if you want something that will intellectually challenge you and entertain you and inspire you, like the Fabled offering is that.
That is awesome. So you've been on the show before, you know the drill. For anyone out there looking to spice it up with their writing and dive into a different genre, maybe try something different, what would be your biggest piece of advice to kind of aid them in their journey doing it?
Ooh, I think the thing that really helped me when it came to approaching this story in particular, and kind of getting out of my comfort zone is take from the things that you love the most about those specific genres or whatever world that you're working in, and try to dive deep into why that works. Like what is it doing to you? What's the connective tissue of why does this moment work in the story, or why does this concept work for the story? What is so cool about it, or what is so moving about it? And really analyze that in a way and kind of pick it apart, and learn what it's like to put yourself in that world and feel like a part of that, and thinking about the practical stuff as well as some of the more high concept stuff. And then I think another thing that is really important is you have to do your research. Do your research before you just like try to dive into a story. Like, oh, I want to write a story that doesn't take place on Earth. Well, it's like, okay, but if it doesn't take place on Earth, then like, how does gravity work? How does,
Mhm.
the physics of this world work? How does the world lay out? And like, what actually, like, what's the operations here? And like,
How are they
what
gonna
are
breathe?
yeah, things like that. And so like, you don't have to figure out everything, but it's really what really helped me going into this story is kind of knowing the pieces I had to play with and what my playground actually looked like before I started just breaking through things and breaking rules that
Mhm.
maybe I would have set, but I didn't think to set. And you don't want to just dive in blindly and try to make something that is you're gonna run into roadblocks later on and be like, oh crap, why did I do that? Why did I
Mhm.
put that in my story? Like, I thought it sounded cool, but it was only cool because of this particular moment or this particular scene. And sometimes you can work those things out later on, but most of the time you just want your reader to drop into the story and not question how things are working. So that's, you want that immersion as much as
Mhm.
possible. So you have to ask the questions that the reader might ask before they ask them, so that you can answer them beforehand, and that way they're not guessing or confused.
Absolutely. Some awesome advice. And last but not least, what are you consuming outside of creating? Video games, TV shows, movies, books. Tell us what you've been up to.
Yeah, no, I've been man, I've wanted to play Spider-Man 2, but I haven't
It's
had any
good.
time to play it. Is it good?
It's
Yeah.
good.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I played the first game that Insomniac put out, and I started playing Miles Morales, but
I
I
really
never.
liked the Miles. It was short, but it was
Yeah,
good.
yeah, me too, me too. And so I need to get around to playing Spider-Man 2. I also want to get around to playing Alan Wake 2. I
Hmm.
really loved the first Alan Wake game. So I haven't gotten to those yet, but I will. Other than that, I've been still reading a lot of comics. I go to my LCS, every month or every 2 weeks, and I pick up stuff. And I've been really enjoying Tom King's Danger Street series that DC's been putting out, and also I just read Ultimate Invasion from Jonathan Hickman, and he's rebooting the Ultimate Universe, which I'm really excited about for Marvel.
Hmm.
And so that's been good. And then also I reread Seven to Eternity by Rick Remender and Jerome Opeña, which is an image book, fantasy book that came out a few years ago. That's a huge inspiration for the Fabled offering, and I
Oh,
wanted
that's
to
cool.
re-experience that and read it again. And so having read that again, it blew my mind, and I was
Hmm.
just so like happy. And I don't reread things very often. It's very rare that I'll go back. I will rewatch movies a lot, and I will replay games every now and then, but I don't necessarily read novels or comics
Isn't
over
that
and
weird?
over.
Like
Yeah,
it's like almost like it just takes too long to reread it or something, as opposed to like,
yeah. I
yeah.
think I think it just has something to do with, either like attention span, or like you could just flip through a comic, and that
Hmm.
that feels like rereading it. You don't necessarily have to take the time to read everything. And I don't know, it's not as passive entertainment as like watching a movie or maybe playing a game. But yeah, I've been doing that. And then man, in terms of like what I've been watching a lot of Frasier, that
Okay.
sitcom Frasier from like
Hmm.
the 90s. And that's been, I admit I never watched it, and so I been watching that, and I've had a grand old time with it. It's been a lot of fun.
I like the second Spider-Man a lot. Nothing to spoil, but like even just like basic street level combat. Having Miles, like when you're playing as Peter Parker or vice versa, you're playing as Miles and you have Peter Parker swing in,
Yeah,
and just seeing the both of them fighting at in union, it's
that's
it's just
epic.
such
Yeah.
a fun experience. But guys, with that being
Yeah.
said, it is time for us to wrap up. I hope you all have had a lovely Sunday. Right here is the link to check out this Kickstarter. It is still live for the next 11 days. You can help the success of it just by simply sharing it on Facebook or Twitter. Word of mouth is 100% free. With that being said, hope you all have a fantastic night, but most importantly, keep it geekly.